Hi, Maeve.
Ajahn is ready, maybe. No.
สวัสดีค่ะ everyone
สวัสดีค่ะอาจา
ส
ร
วัส
ย์
ดีครับท่านอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับ
ครับอาจารย์ครับ
I received a question from someone else and she likes advice from Ajahn.
yes please
Yes. Now, he followed many retreats, but now she finds she likes to deepen understanding and read more suttas and Abhidhamma. And is that not useful? Where can she find a text about all sorts and levels of panya? That's what she likes to know, because she wants to discern the present moment in a more refined way. And that's why she is studying, but also in a natural way, she says, following Ajah's advice. So she likes more advice.
what about the understanding of the nature of that which is now? Otherwise it is impossible to discern the very subtle truth which now arising and falling away. That's why we listen to every word to consider, which just talk about the truth of whatever is there from the very beginning of what is there now. Otherwise it's useless not to understand what is there as it is. So the beginning is this moment, any moment of talking about the truth of what is there now. From now to now to now to now, what are there? Different ones, not the same one at all. Just begin to understand the way life is from moment to moment because it's so true. For example, right now, it's not just a moment ago. What is there a moment ago just gone completely, never to arise again? Is that not true? Just beginning to understand that actually there's no permanent thing or self at all. It's only that which appears and disappears. And what can appear is through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and then thinking about that which has been there before with many different ideas just right now. For example, what is there? If there's no question about it, can there be any moment thinking of it? Even it's there so true from moment to moment. What is there now again? Different one. But it seems like the same thing, the same one, just like before. But actually, what is the absolute truth? That's why beginning to be truth, to be truthful to the truth, to understand the truth, that's all. Because nobody can change the absolute truth of what is there. It's there already. And how come can it arise at will like we would like it to be? Many things around and understanding each of them as no self instantly. It's impossible. Even to have clearer understanding of what is meant by what is there is not there now. From moment to moment so very rapidly. What is there? Seeing and then hearing. And can the seeing after hearing be the same as seeing before hearing? Impossible. That's why just it's time to think more about the truth of what is there, to have more confidence of what is the truth. It is this very moment. And what is there is so true because it's there, appearing as it is. Seeing is seeing, but who knows? Seeing is seeing, and seeing sees. Is it not true? And what is there? No more seeing, because at moment of hearing, there's no seeing. Only all these words will lead to more and more understanding of the truth. As what is there is not permanent at all. Before it's there, it's not there. And after it's there, it's gone instantly. Each moment, never to be found again, never to arise again. It's only the idea about that which is there before and long time ago, and it will be tomorrow and the other moment, only thinking about it. But the truth is only the moment when understanding what is there now as not permanent at all. And this is so true no matter when. The beginning of hearing and the end, the moment of birth and the end of life, exactly the same, never change from moment to moment. That's why learning to understand that clinging is there, which appears always as something, but without seeing, which what is seen just is there no more, but the rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling of him, form up or condition the idea of shape and form and take it for something. But the truth is that what is seen cannot be anything. And it's so very subtle because it's only the moment when only that impinges on the eye base and a reality conditioned to arise and experience it and then gone from moment to moment, from birth to death. To understand the truth, let go the idea of self or something permanent, because actually there is no thing, no one at all, only different moments of experiencing something from different doorways. That's all. Can this be known? Can it be studied? Can it be directly understanding it? Because it appears there is hardness now. The truth of it, it has a reason. And as soon as it has reason, it falls away instantly, no more. But the idea of thinking about it is there, hinder the moment when it's not there, and when it's there and not there. And this is life from moment of birth to death. So what is there cannot be taken for anything at all gone. So how can that be taken for something or someone? No more. So thinking keeps on thinking by conditions. After seeing, it's thinking. After hearing, it's thinking. So we live in the world of thinking, different moments, from moment to moment, about everything which is there before. It is just this moment. What is there is not there anymore. If it's true, can it be a little more understanding directly because it's there to be understood? It's not just try to find, to understand that which is not there. It's impossible. But what is there can be object of understanding. Never think of it before, and then we talk about it. So beginning to think that what can be known is only what is there. So keep on talking about that which appears in order to begin to understand the truth. At that moment, it let go the idea of self or I, because it's so very deeply rooted to take whatever is there with ignorance that it's something, because the rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling away, even right now, unknown. But it can be known from hearing, considering, until the understanding of that which is there, just one by one, different ones. Seeing is the moment of now, it sees, and hearing is the moment when now it hears, that's all. Not together, different one. And they cannot be two together in a moment because of different conditions. And this is life. If we don't talk about it, forget about it, there cannot be the understanding of the truth of what is there from moment to moment, from birth to death.
Ajahn, you speak a lot about considering, and people may misunderstand it and think it's thinking, but it's not at all thinking of a story.
Because you see that if we haven't heard about what is there as it is, beginning to understand, usually does it is as we think. What is seen now, a doll, see, or a flower, or curtain, or bed, or whatever is there. But actually, what is actually seen, see, beginning to understand the truth of a moment, because life exists only in a moment. When there's no reality which arises and experience, there's no life. But what is taken for life is moment of experiencing an object which is experienced different at different moment. For example, seeing, no sound, nothing is heard, but what is seen, only is seen. But the idea of taking it, the shape and form, as something all the time, as soon as one opens one's eyes, everything is round. But in truth, what can be seen is only that which can impinge on the eye base. And what about eye? White and black, brown or white, and what? It's not the eye, the special rupa, which can that the visible object can impinge on it only. It cannot impinge on hardness or any part of the body. Only that which is different from other. That can be only reality. That what is seen can impinge on it only, and it's there. Otherwise, there cannot be seeing right now. The blind, what does it mean? No eye sense. So it's the special rupa. It's there, unknown all the time. Because from birth to death, the attention is just about what appears, what is there appearing, not the reality which experiencing it. So that can be experienced, can be seen or heard or touched. Just forget about that from birth up to now, from moment of waking up and all day, no thought about that which experience, but it is the moment of attending to that which there as something like or dislike all the time, unknowingly, the truth, what are there in a moment. And it's time to study, to understand life, because without a moment there is not life, a moment of experiencing an object. And how come? Who conditioned that? No one, but it's there already by conditions. Learn to understand the absolute truth. Be true to the truth and begin to understand the truth. There is no one, is it right or wrong? Because without that which experiences, is there anyone? And what is experienced not there all the time, it's gone. So very rapidly, no thought about it, keeping on thinking that it's there all the time. Wrong from the moment of experiencing and thinking about it. So begin to understand the truth, to study whether it's true or not. When it's true, can anyone change it to be false? What is seen, and what is there which is seen cannot be anything at all. That's why there is ignorance. No one knows the truth until the enlightenment of the Buddha and taught about the truth of it for the other, to begin to understand the truth, to let go wrong understanding, which take that for me. And what about the death moment? Where's that person? How come never to be there at all. So just be this person only when death hasn't come yet. That's all. And what are they as person? Just seeing, hearing, thinking, liking each day, not understanding that they are absolute truth by conditions, just arising and falling away and condition the next one from this moment on and on and on, non-stop, as long as there cannot be the understanding of the conditions for that which is now appearing. And when there's the understanding, and then it let go the conditions, nothing can arise anymore. Just understand the truth
I have a question.
or not.
It's so difficult to explain to people what is direct experience because they believe it's still thinking, but direct experience is not thinking.
It just depends on the person, whether the person would like to understand the truth or just live as they like, from moment to moment, seeing, hearing, eating, praying, enjoying oneself, and so on, sleep, and then wake again, and experience again, and nothing again, while it's deep sleep. Where are those experiences? All gone completely. But the wrong understanding is there to condition the moment when whatever is there, taking it for something again and again and again. Otherwise, there cannot be the enlightened one if there's no seeing the benefit of understanding the truth, or just live but blindly, don't know when will death come and or ends and start again, not understanding again and again. So it's just like studying any subject, but it's not just like the other subject, but the understanding is moment of understanding that which is now appearing, which is not easy, but it can be studied. So it depends on whether one sees the benefit, the value of understanding the truth, because what is there in one's life or anyone's life is wholesome moment and unwholesome moment. And it can be known what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. But what is not known is that actually they cannot be taken for anything permanent at all. All depends on conditions, no matter wholesomeness or unwholesomeness. And when there's no understanding, what about the ignorance will lead to clinging, craving, trying so hard to get that which one would like to have it, but it's not there at all. It's there, whatever is there, which one takes for my wealth or my thing or my possessions or my rupa or my hair and whatever, is there only when it's when it is appearing right now, only that, to know that actually what is it? What is seen is so common to everything which can impinge on the eye sense, and seeing arises and experiencing it. It experienced the characteristic clearly, so the other reality arising with it just marks and remember and cling like or dislike to that object according to different conditions for such reality to be there. So we know that in the day there are moments of attachment, moment of dislike, but how come? And then gone, unknown from moment to moment. Absolutely never to arise again. So what's the use of just experiencing it, no matter with attachment or aversion or ignorance, also very enjoyable, very pleasant or unpleasant, all depends on conditions, just in a moment. Where are they now? Nothing is there because all gone. But what is there is conditioned to appear just to be there and then gone unknowingly. But this is so true. And when there is the understanding of the truth of life, there can be the understanding of what is benefit and what is not benefit at all. To live without understanding, and what about understanding that everything is there as it is, not self? Anger is anger. No kindness, no compassion. And moment of compassion and kindness, much different. What is better? What harms, so very harmful, not to the other, but to the what we take as it's me or mine at that very moment. Just understand the truth, so it's so true. Just live, see. No one can get away from it at all. All depends on conditions. No matter sickness or enjoying oneself, enjoying each moment, or it's that which does not experience through six doorways, but it's not death yet. Everything can be known as it is. No one and no thing is life, different conditioned realities. So one can understand what is the best moment in life, the most valuable moment to understand, better than just live without any understanding. And understanding does not hurt at all. It begins to understand why people are different. And what we take for people is the accumulation from moment to moment of what is there. So very different, never be the same for anyone in the world, in heaven or anywhere. They are all different dhammas. It can lead to less clinging to what is there because the understanding that it's not there anymore at all. Cling to what? Nothing. But think that it's there. It's something always there. But can anyone find something? And there can be more confidence about the right cause for the right result. For example, now, is the hearing, it's raining. The idea is the taking the sound as it's raining. But actually, the sound is gone, and there's thinking about that, which is as something, or as something, thinking about that which appears always as something.
อาจารย์
Understanding begins at moment of understanding that actually there is no me at all, no thing. There are only different realities. Is that true or not true? That's all.
Ajahn, sometimes we have big problems or small problems, and I read your advice to end the problem. And usually we are carried away by the story and keep on thinking about situations. But in your answer to Anne, you never mentioned any situation, any story. You only spoke about Paramatta Dhammas. And I was very much impressed because I think that really helps. It doesn't help to talk about the story because we are carried away anyway by it.
Because in truth, usually we think of someone or something all the time. Is that right? Where there's no one, even I, when there's the understanding that actually there is no one, including what is taken for I, when there's no I, there is no other person, nothing, only different realities. So there can be more compassion to what is there as it is. Ignorance or understanding, wholesome or unwholesome, selfishness or kindness, and so on. They are different realities. So there can be a moment of being friendly and understand the benefit of the moment when wholesome reality is there. When there is no understanding, we just talk about whatever is seen, no matter on the television or anything happen. We just think about people and things. But in truth, what is there at that moment of thinking? Any understanding that actually there are different dharmas, uncontrollable, depending on conditions. So even that person, because of not understanding the truth, such behavior, such thinking is there, hurting and harming not just the others, but hurting the one who has it at that very moment before there can be action or deeds to hurt the other. But so actually it's there, the wholesomeness or the unwholesomeness, the benefit or the benefit is just there, no one at all. Just to learn to understand it. Why there is disturbance. What is there? Not understand the truth. That actually what is there as the object of thinking? What is the truth of it? Thinking of someone, but actually thinking about what? Without names, even the name can condition moment of like or dislike, just name. Because it's not only name, but it's the name for such and such person. See, that's why what is there is thinking. What hurts is the unwholesome thinking, and kindness does not hurt at all. See, so just being kind.
Ajahn, just now you mean
one follow the teachings of Buddha with understanding what is benefit and what is not beneficial.
may be thinking with understanding, or they may be thinking with neither wrong view nor right understanding.
It doesn't matter at all. But when there is the understanding, the truth that actually there's no one, this is to be there, implant in citta, so that it can understand what is there when it grows and develops. Not forget that actually there is not that anyone, not that person, not anyone. It's only a moment of experiencing sound or sight and take it at that very moment, not the other, but the person. What we take from me, just sees and think about that and condition the idea, which condition speech and deeds thoughts, what is there.
Can you explain what you mean by implanting the idea, Ajahn? Because this is a new concept
the
to me.
understanding of the truth. For example, there's no one. Is it confident? of its truth.
Is it understanding of the reality of the present moment?
Pardon?
What about the understanding of the reality of the present moment? Isn't that the development of the path?
Okay, there must be the reality which experiences, right? It's
Yes,
all
Ajahn.
forgotten that it's there all the time from moment of birth to death. No one thought about it at all. Just think about that which is experienced by that reality which arises and experience. Without that reality, how can anything appear? Impossible. No seeing, no hearing, no experiencing at all. What is there? No, nothing is there because nothing is known. So there is a reality which arises and experience. We just talk about the truth of that reality, no one and no thing, because there cannot be anyone or any person without the reality which arises and experience, but not understanding the truth of that nature, a reality which arises, and when it arises, it experiences instantly, because its characteristic is a reality which arises and experiences. No one can stop the reality which arises and experiencing now from birth and on and on. So begin to understand what is there because of a reality which arises and experience. Otherwise, there's no world, there's no one, there's no thing, there's no event, there's nothing. So all depends on the reality which arises and experience. And now we can use the word citta because we have learned about it, the characteristic of the chief of experience, the object so clear. It cannot like or dislike because it is just arises to experience. But without it, the other reality cannot like or dislike that because the other reality does not perform the function of experiencing clearly of that object. That's why it can be studied and begin to understand what is meant by no one and no thing, and what is meant by a reality, and what are realities, because there is not just that which arises and be the chief of experiencing the object. There is other reality too, like feeling is there, but it's not the citta, the faculty, the chief of experiencing the object so clear. Otherwise, there cannot be the idea of different things. The sky and the water, the ocean over there. How come to understand the difference if that there is not reality which arises and experience the object clearly as it is, different from moment to moment, to know that they are different. No matter what shade of color is seen, to be known as it's different only, but no idea about what is it, no like or dislike of it, because just arise and experience, that's all, from moment of birth to the moment of death. No one pay attention to it at all. Just pay attention to that which appears when it experiences anything, the object which is experienced appear, and no understanding that actually nothing can appear without that which arises and experiences only that. So only that is now appearing. While there are so many things arising and falling away, unknown, because no experiencing. So it's only a moment of experiencing. So life consists of just one moment only at a time. And that very moment condition the other moment to arise instantly after it. Who can make it different? Who can stop the way it is? No one at all. And this is so true. But no understanding of the truth of what is there as it is, as no one, as that which arises and experiences what is there. Only that. And the other mental factor, not that one, but many different things different realities, like it's one, dislike it's one, and so on. That's why without the enlightenment of the Buddha, it's impossible to understand. The world is so dark with wrong understanding and so blind because what appears is not as it is. And the truth can be discerned from developing understanding. No one, no thing at all. So there can be moment to be understood, the moment of begin to understand the truth of what is there, and the moment where there is no understanding of what is there at all. These two are different. So the understanding is a reality, and the ignorance is the opposite reality, but both are true, but they are different, not any one at all. Beginning to understand what is meant by Dhamma, no self, no thing, no one. Dhamma is the reality which arises by conditions to be different one. As it appears, as no one can change. Seeing is there already, who can change it? Who can stop it? Who can make it not see anything? And who can stop it to arise and falls away, and arise again and falls away again, different ones, all the time, from years and years, never the same, even for what we take for one person. Because actually, there's no person. It's only the, what you call it, the collection of what is there, together from moment to moment. By conditions, no one cannot understand what is there in a moment of seeing. Not only that which is the chief of experiencing, the characteristic of that which appears, but that must be conditions for its arising. So it can arise together by Paccaya, Sahachata Paccaya, as we know, but it make known as they have to arise together. They have to fall away together. They have to experience the same object together, but different characteristic, different function. Phassa, for example, Chitta cannot experience, it cannot phassa, it cannot contact. It is that which arises because of phassa. When phassa contact with what object, it arises to experience only that object. No matter it's sound or smell or what is seen or taste or hardness, just right now appearing. No one knows what are there, not only citta, the experiencing, but also the condition for its arising, arise together, fall away together too. To begin to understand the truth little by little, before there can be the letting go the idea of self, because it's so very deeply rooted. Each one is different. By learning just one by one at a time. Citta is the reality which arises to experience by conditions, and the other reality arises but cannot experience by conditions, different conditions. That's why there are not just one conditions, there are so many different conditions. That's why everything is different by conditions. This moment, and this moment, because just this moment with it is gone, and the next one is there and gone again. Never be the same. Otherwise, there cannot be letting go wrong understanding, which take that which is not there as it's still there and as something permanent. Know me, or the idea that it is always me, just from this place to other place. Move from this to that. But actually, there's nothing to be permanent at all. only just arise and falls away. The breaking world, everything is breaking, unknown. But it can be known, little by little. Why? Because it's so true. So begin to understand the truth of what is there now, as it is. Better than not understanding anything at all from birth to death, from life to life, no understanding at all. It doesn't hurt to understand. It's so useful, so beneficial to understand that usually there is clinging to that which is not there. When the understanding is the understanding the truth, it still know the moment of attachment. No one can stop it because it's accumulated. It's there by condition, but it's not permanent. It's not always there. See?
ท่านอาจารย์ can you explain further that you mentioned the conditions for the arising of a reality will fall away at the same time that the reality falls away. Would you explain that further, please?
Now, there can be the understanding of moment of seeing, right? Because seeing is there. And what is seeing is a reality which is conditioned by rupa, like Jakku, Pasada, right? The special rupa which the object can impinge on it. Otherwise, how can citta arises to experience that if it cannot impinge on any rupa in the body at all? That's why that rupa arises by Dhamma as condition. That's why we don't talk about from the very beginning, just to understand little by little that there is moment of seeing, and seeing is conditioned by Jakupasata as one condition, and without that which can impinge on it, the Jakupasata, how can there be seeing and seeing only that which impinge on the eye base? See? No understanding, but Buddha taught about how come Jakupasata and how come whatever is there, little by little, to be known that that cannot be just one condition. Because how come Jakupasata? Can anyone make Jakupasata to arise? So what conditions it? Buddha taught about what are there in the past to condition this moment. Paticcasamuppada, condition in the past, condition what is there now, and what is there now will condition with the future. See, non-stop. That's why we learn to understand about the truth, the absolute truth, that it cannot be under anyone's control because actually there's no one. So when there's no one, what is there and how come to be such? There must be different conditions to condition such different thing, like seeing is not hearing. Even it is that which can experience when it arises, it has to experience an object, but different object by what? Why it is hearing and what it is seeing and what is thinking and what is liking, all are there.
But
If
once
there is no understanding the truth of that they are different and no one, how can there be the understanding of that which condition all this reality to arise? And there must be different conditions for seeing and hearing. And there are conditions, this life and past life too, far away. No matter how long it's there, it can condition even eye best right now, or even seeing right now. Because no one can make choice to see whatever one's like by conditions. To see what? at any time unknown, no, beyond expectation, each moment, and begin to understand the word anatta, no one and no thing. There are different conditions. So anatta is not just a word to talk about, but it's the truth of this moment, of whatever is there, no matter is that which can experience or that which cannot experience. And these are the main truth of life, whatever life is there. Human being life, heaven, and whatever. The truth is the truth. There must be that which experiences and that which cannot experience. So many different biconditions. And just be there very shortly, unknown. But in truth, it's so short, and that can be directly experienced. Otherwise, how can there be the eradication of doubt about the truth of this moment?
But I asked about, if when a reality arises, the conditions that led it to arise also fall away when the reality falls away. Is that what you was is that what you said before?
That's the way it is. As much as anyone can say, that's the way it is, because it is Dhamma. It is a reality. No one can make it arise because it is conditioned to arise. Because there must be a reality which experiences an object. We don't talk about whether it's seeing or thinking or what, but there must be a reality which experiences an object, and it's here and now. Show up, and no one can control it. That's why anatta, the understanding of the word anatta, includes no one can make it arise, no one can change what it is the way it is at all. So what is that experiences? No one can change it to be different, and no one can stop not to be like that. It is that by conditions. That's the meaning of anatta. No one who can do anything, or who can make anything, or who can change anything at all, even Buddha. Is that true? Can anyone change the reality, not having that which experiences to arise? Impossible. That's the understanding of the deep meaning of reality. It means that it's so true, and it cannot belong to anyone, it cannot be controlled, it cannot be changed at all. That is the understanding of anatta. What is there? It has to be there, see? No matter this life or any life, who can change the reality which arises and experienced right now? All gone. Is that not true? That's why I learn to understand that since no one can change the truth, the Dhamma, the reality, because what is there as the absolute truth is so very absolute, no one can change it. No matter one tries to think so hard, try to find different ways to stop it, impossible. Only right understanding begin to understand the truth and know the way not to cling to it as before, because of right understanding is strong enough never to change firm confidence of the truth. Satya, Dhamma, see. Otherwise, what is Dhamma if anyone can do? If it in one's hand or the other person's hand to change or to do, impossible.
John, when I hear anatta, I think of anatta as a characteristic of conditioned dhammas. So I agree with you when you say it cannot be controlled, because that describes something about conditioned dhammas. But if I hear no one there to change it, then that doesn't seem to be describing a conditioned Dhamma.
To
An aspect of
understand
conditioned
that
Dhamma.
no one can change. Is it true? Another meaning of anatta. Otherwise, it can be controlled.
Yes, right. I think that's the meaning. It cannot be controlled. No one can change it, or you can put it that way, but it's really describes the conditioned Dhamma, doesn't it? So it cannot be controlled.
One at all, too. No matter what truth is there, is so true in what aspect, that it's a reality. It cannot be taken for anything permanent. Whatever arises falls away instantly. To understand what is meant by no one and no thing and anatta, because anatta is not the word, but the truth of what is there. Just understanding that the truth is the truth, Dhamma is Dhamma. Nobody can change, right?
Right.
Because actually there's no one. And right understanding is different from not understanding, ignorance. Because it begins to understand what is there as no one. Because before there can be such understanding, there is the idea of I, of people and things all around.
When conditioned Dhammas are seen as they truly are, then the idea of there being an I is gradually reduced.
Until it's completely eradicated.
Yes.
Never to arise again. So it's not easy to have that moment at all, because each moment is conditioned by ignorance, years and years ago accumulated so very strongly. It's underlined all the time, because Buddha told us, experience, 3 moments after seeing is there. So very subtle. That's why it's always idea that I, even it's not spoken.
Yes, we mean the I as the self, not I as in a term of reference to me versus, to one person versus another, but the self, the idea of self.
So what is self can be known, not just people, or also things, something, see, not as it is.
But I'm reminded that in the sutta where the nun, I think it was Vajira, was approached by Mara, and she said, no being is found, and she gave the analogy of the so-called being like a chariot, just an assemblage of parts. And obviously that is an analogy that anyone can understand, that everyone knows that a manufactured item is just an assemblage of parts. There's not the taking it as having a self in the same way that there is in relation to a being.
Until what is there now is known directly as it is. From hearing and understanding, developing, accumulated, it conditioned moment of understanding what is there, just as it is now. So the moment of experiencing what is there now with ignorance is different from at moment when it's directly known as it is.
So it's directly knowing that is the key, which brings us back to Nina's comment earlier that people find it difficult, Nina, you said, to appreciate what is meant by directly experience or directly know.
The most difficult thing or reality to be known, even is there, only from hearing word by word, letter by letter, study carefully, wisely the truth of it, until there's more and more confidence to understand what is there now as it is.
Whatever is appearing can be understood if
By conditions, so
by
it
conditions
proves
only.
nothingness. More and more confidence of what is next moment cannot be known. See? But when there is the understanding of what is there, no matter what is there in the future can be known too. Like Sariputta, never known before that he would hear the words from Asachi and understood the truth so very quickly. So
Just
what
coming
is
back,
there can be the reminder. What about the understanding of it? Just live just there without any understanding, or begin to hear about it and understand it little by little.
Betty, just to come back to your point when you mentioned that you'd heard that the conditions for the arising of reality fall away at the same moment. I think I understand what your point is, because of course we know for seeing there are many conditions like the visible object which falls away after the seeing has fallen away, and the karma which arose, the chaitana which the karma which conditioned that seeing which fell away long time before, and then some realities that arise from seeing like the chaitasikas arise at the same moment. But I think the point that's being emphasized is just that when all these conditions together no longer condition the maintaining of seeing, then it falls away instantly. There are no more conditions for seeing to last even a fraction of a moment longer, because those conditions that have come together to condition the arising of seeing no longer condition another moment of seeing. That seeing has fallen away and there is the next moment. But I think that your point was that some of those conditions fall away, that like the visible object falls away at another moment. But after seeing has fallen away, it no longer conditions the seeing. That's the point. And the point that Ajahn touched on, that in truth, of course, there's no one there, different realities, and that when there is compassion or metta, we say it's compassion or metta to Anne or Betty or someone. But I discussed this a bit with Sukin once before, but in fact, it's the ignorance, the attachment, the sorrow, the grief that there is compassion towards. We call it this person's grief or that person's grief, but in truth, there is not this one or that one. But it is a concept at that moment. It's the attachment that we say is this person's, but actually there is no person. So what is experienced or what is thought about is the grief that we attribute to this one or that one, but there's no wrong view at that moment of compassion or metta, no wrong idea that there is someone there. Whereas normally there is thinking with Loba and ignorance about people and things and all the time, taking it for this person that's annoyed me, or this person who's so sad, or this person that has a problem. But actually, there's no one who is sad, or no one who has a problem, or no one who has annoyed one. There are just these different dhammas. But these are very deep points, I think, very important.
And can there be the understanding conditions before there can be the understanding of the truth of the characteristic of that which appears? For example, we use the term, that which experiences is only the word. But what about the experiencing the truth of that word? Because seeing now, no doubt about there is seeing. But what is seeing? We use the word it experiencing that which is seen. That is not enough because it's not moment when seeing shows up as no one and no thing and no world, only the characteristic which experiences. To be known clearly what is meant by that which experiences. That's why it's not easy at all. Just understanding little by little when it's there, that it's not that which is experienced, but it's that which knows or experience. And even that is not clear enough. But when it's more and more thought about the other conditions, like it cannot be there without such and such conditions, jetasikas, and so on, it developed the understanding of the truth little by little before the characteristic of that which experience show up to be the object of clear understanding. No word, but it's there, experiences. That's why there are different degrees of understanding the truth of what is there. There must be firm confidence of the truth about there must be the reality which is different from that which cannot experience anything because it now experiences. So what appears is the object of that which experienced it already. But it's not enough yet to understand the truth of that which experiences, but begins to understand the difference between that which cannot experience and that which experiences. As long as it's not directly understood with direct awareness, it's not clear understanding of its nature because it doesn't show up yet. But when it's there, showing up, no doubt, but by conditions, without developing understanding of the truth little by little, no one there, but many cetasikas arising, performing their function from moment to moment until it's time enough to be different level of understanding, from intellectual understanding to the moment of direct understanding, to develop on and on and on and on until so familiar with the truth. And who knows when will it show up? By conditions. Anatta, no expectation, beyond expectation. Otherwise, it's not enough to what is meant by anatta. Until even this moment appears as anatta. So just learn to have confidence of the truth, to be true to the truth, no matter what is there, beginning to understand. No one and no thing, it's only that which experiences. Now, there's seeing, there's the object which is seen. It can be a moment of beginning to understand that which experiences. By conditions, little by little, not clear yet until it clears, only when it shows up. So clear. That's why there can be the understanding what is there in Tipitaka. The object does not appear clearly, as it is. But citta is that which experience the characteristic of that which appears clear. Only experience the characteristic, no understanding. So understanding is different from that which arises and experience directly, the characteristic clearly. Each one is different. Otherwise, without understanding more and more clearly and better, it's impossible for anything to show up as it is, just to the understanding. Because it's just like that, but no understanding. So it appears to ignorance, different from at moment when it appears to right understanding of different degrees.
Ajahn, I have a question on bhavasva, the clinging to being or being alive or existence. Because some weeks ago you explained about different ways of clinging to self, which is not always a wrong view, but you said there is still bhavasava or clinging to being. And then I realized that I don't understand all the implications of bhavasava.
If there is right understanding and sati developed enough, there can be a moment when one just wakes up and there is clinging. No object appears as that which is seen or that which is heard, but this moment of clinging to that moment, see, and it's moment which is different from while one is fast asleep, because at that moment no object appears at all. But when one wakes up, it means that there must be a moment of experiencing an object, but the object, like that which is seen and heard, is not there. So it's just a moment of clinging to the bhava, what is there. As bhava, it's there. Little by little.
Difficult to understand, but it's clinging to just being alive.
That's why when Sotapanna understand the truth, enlighten the truth, understand that there is still what? Which hasn't been eradicated. Only wrong view and doubt has been completely eradicated. What about the attachment to objects and also to being? And when Anagami knows that, no clinging to the sensuous object, but still to being. So it's different from when it clings to objects, which appears through the sensor. But it's the moment of even those objects do not appear, but still it's not the moment of being fast asleep. It's their experience. And there is clinging to that too. Otherwise, that cannot be eradicated. There can be still anagami, still cling to that. So clinging to bhava is not clinging to the sensuous object. Kamasava is not bhavasava. So there can be a moment when the sense object does not appear, but there is that just wake up and it's there. No object through the 6 ways, but it's there. I mean through two sensuous objects. Is it possible? Just wake up, not thinking about anything. No object appears, but it's there.
Yes, yes.
I can understand the idea of just waking up and like being happy to be alive sort of thing, or I don't know, but it seems to me that if there's clinging to becoming, to existence, that must be based on the sense experiences, because we don't have any concept of existence that doesn't involve experiencing objects through the sense doors.
But what sensed or object?
No particular sensed or object, just
So
generally.
can it be sensed
Yeah.
or object?
Hmm. But if on what I guess I'm saying is, if a person like the anagami no longer has attachment to sensed or objects, but still has attachment to becoming, so that I find a bit difficult to conceptualize, because
So
what is
it's
there
moment.
to becoming apart from the sensed or experiences?
So the moment when the object is not sensuous object and not the other object, like object of jhana and so on, but it's the moment when the other objects are not there. Usually there must be one object, no matter what sense object or whatever, according to the person, different person. But when those objects do not appear, but still it's there, life exists, being, experiencing.
Experiencing what though, if not the sensed or objects?
There must be the object for sure, but not the kamasva and other object. Just the characteristic of that which experiences, which is bhava.
So perhaps for the person who has developed jhana, for example, and the object is an image of something, maybe there's
So that
still
is not bhava, but when no
no.
object like those objects, but there is still bhava to be
Yes,
just a
there
moment.
could be attachment to the calmness that goes with jhana states or something like that, I suppose.
To the bhava to be at that very moment experiencing. Because bhava has to be that which experiences.
So, Nina, is that possible? It's attachment to the joy, the bliss of jhana, for example, would not be attachment to a sensed or object.
When it's the object of jhana, it's not kama object, right?
Yes, right, Ajahn. Yeah.
But it's still an object, which
Yes.
is still as it is. It can be the nimitta of the
Yes.
whatever object is there. But this is
Right.
away from all those, none from those, but it's still there. So we begin to understand that even there's no attachment to such object, but there is clinging to the being at that very moment to be eradicated, to be away from all akusla, to be arahata. No attachment even to that. We just very subtle clinging to being, bhava.
Ajahn, in that case, the clinging, the bhava would appear clearly to understanding,
When the object is not like as it is before, no matter this is right understanding or whatever, it's not such object. But at moment of clinging to bhava, the experiencing is there. See? When it is not the reality which experiences, is that bhava. Only that which experiences is bhava. Kama bhava, rupa bhava, arupa bhava, or about those. But now it's just to the bhava itself, that which experiences. Even it's away from those objects, see? That's why that person hasn't been arahata yet, until the eradication of even just clinging to bhava, to be, to experience anymore. So sometimes from moment of waking up, no thought about anything, no those objects appearing, but it's clinging. Usually it can be pleasant or indifferent depending on condition. But it's there, even there's no object like the other object as before, but it still be the object of clinging, bhava, the experiencing itself. But it's not trying to find it out, but when it's there, it's known that it's not clinging to the sent object or the other object, but to that which experiences is there. Only just that experiences can be object of clinging.
And the reason it's asava is because it's subtle and not known when it's so very slight, but it's still, it must arise, it must be there, that subtle clinging just to being, but just not known at all.
What about that which is now appearing as it not known yet? How can there be the moment of understanding that which cannot be known when it's not there? That which experience now is not known yet, even it's there.
So completely useless to look for that which doesn't appear or to try to find it because it's not what is appearing right now.
Ajahn, can you talk about a little bit about just a moment ago, you say at the moment of wake up, what is there, even not sensory object, so not try to find out. Can you talk more about a little bit, moment of wake up?
Can it be known only when it's there? When it's not there, can it be known? Like now, it's not been there, can it be known? But at the moment of just wake up, it depends on sati and panya enough to understand what is there cannot be with intention at all. But it appears to be known as it is. So no expectation what would be the object of understanding at any time. And this is the beginning of understanding with confidence of the truth of what is meant by Dhamma. Absolute reality, uncontrollable, no one. Otherwise the self is there lurking, conditioned such and such thought and thinking and idea. Some people just want to find out the meaning of the word. But what about right now? If there is no understanding of this word, how can there be the understanding of what that word means?
Okay, it's clear now.
And this is meant by what is letting go, little by little. Attachment, wanting to know this, understand that, or what is not there. So it hinders the moment of studying that what is there now, because of thinking about the other thing, instead of knowing that what is there now should be known little by little from hearing again and again and again, talking just about that which experiences and understand what's meant by experiencing. No shape, no form, but it's the moment of understanding what is there, the clear characteristic which is experienced is different from other characteristic.
Ajahn, I'm thinking of helping someone who never heard the Dhamma. We have been listening to you many times, and all you say makes a lot of sense. But I wonder if there's a way of, in very simple words. I'm thinking of a family member who has a big problem. Her husband is going to leave her, and she is very desperate. So I don't know whether it's a simple way of explaining about Dhamma without mentioning any terms.
But there can be many different thoughts and idea about it. For the person who is understanding enough of the truth, it's time to experience the truth, not imagine what would happen, but is there someone is not just like before, exactly what Buddha said. There must be conditions for each different moment, which is not permanent. There cannot be permanent, clean, or to the dear one as before, as usual. It can be changed. And when it's time to see the change, can there be the happy moment to understand the truth? No regret. Otherwise, one might cling to the permanent love and affairs and so on as before. But the truth is shown in this life. It's so true. We don't have to wait for next life or other life at all. So true. So no regret when there is the understanding of the truth. It's so common for anyone at any time when there are right conditions for such happenings to arise. It has to arise.
Yeah.
So all depends on understanding. Better to see the truth now in this life than wait for other life. So true.
And she cannot change her husband to be different. That's reality.
And I think that it's very good time too to not have someone to serve or to care for or to do many things for that person, like slave and so on. It depends on conditions, see? Just to be happy is better than sorrow. To be sorry, so sad. What's the use? It's happened already. So take the best from it, whatever is there. Understanding the truth is the best. And would you like to have cling to that person, still keep on? Or the end is better, but it's not ended forever. It has to start again, begin again, new object again. The truth shows every day.
What do you mean by begin again for that person?
Mhm. That's why nothing is permanent.
Yeah,
It's only for that very moment.
moment, yeah.
Never regret is the best thing. Why regret to the truth? Nothing is permanent. So true. So one just live alone with attachment and whatever has been accumulated. But there can be the understanding accumulated instead of attachment and ignorance, not understanding the truth. Nothing is permanent.
Yes.
And nothing permanent becomes true little by little, one by one in life.
Because one can cling to the idea of impermanence, to the story, and not yet to the moment. But that is more difficult for a person who has not heard the Dhamma.
So I think that it's time to understand how much understanding of the truth. It's there already. Why one is so foolish to think that it shouldn't be the same, impossible, because it happens. So it's nature that nothing is permanent at all. Even her thought about that person is not permanent either when time comes. And what is better than the other? Understanding the truth. And especially when it's there already, to make sure that has happened the way it is, not permanent. That's why the best thing is no expectation from anyone at all. Just live by oneself, developing the understanding. Because the truth is that actually there's no one. It's only her dream about dear husband. He should be as usual. That is her thought, not the truth.
Yes, that's a good point to start, that it is a dream, that is her husband, and no expectation. Maybe that's a way to help.
And what would she like in her life? See, she can have more better things by conditions.
Yes.
And it's such a waste of time, all the thinking about poor me and why did this happen and how could he do this and the conceit and the what will people say, and all these are all just long stories that just hurt and imprison and enslave one all the time, because actually whatever happens because there are causes and conditions, and it can't be any other way. And they're still seeing, they're still hearing, they're still thinking, still liking. So actually we think it's the other person that's causing all these difficulties and problems. But in fact, we're enslaved by our own thinking, these stories which are like stuck records going round and round and round, imprisoning us and making us feel so sad and so sorry and so upset about this person and that person. So life comes back to this moment, and at moments of considering the needs of others or the difficulties of others or understanding a little bit more about life, then there's no difficulty, there's no self-pity, there's no bad husband at those times. So I think it helps to understand that what's happened, it's all in the past. What about now? What is precious in life now? So moments of kindness, moments of giving, moments of understanding will bring more joy and make life easier. But all the self-pity and the long stories about the husband and the difficulties just make life harder and harder all the time.
That's a good way of beginning to explain. Yeah.
And it's lovely because with greater understanding, such negative thinking is supplanted with more wholesome thinking. And in this way, the quality of life improves rather than running after one thing after another that is not even satisfying. How many times I have done it, chasing something only to find it is not satisfying and the shine wears off so quickly. It's a wonderful discussion today. I just wanted to say a few words of appreciation. Thank you.
Nina, I think it's a very difficult area. You know, we know the Dhamma is it's difficult. You know, Ajahn has given us so much, and it's not easy, I don't think, to ever convey this to other people. I remember when Visakha went to see the Buddha, and she had lost one of her grandchildren, and the Buddha said to her, if I could replace your granddaughter for you, would you like that? You know, she had died, her granddaughter had died, and the Buddha said to her, if I could replace your granddaughter, would you like that? No, he actually said to her, if I could replace your granddaughter with as many people as there are in Sawati. So he said, he gave her the option of replacing her granddaughter with many, many people, you know, similar to her granddaughter. And the Buddha said to Visakha, would you like that if I could replace your granddaughter who had died? And she said, oh yes, that would be good. And the Buddha said to her, well, how many people die in Sawati every day? Well, she said, well, many, many people, dozens, hundreds of people die in Sawati every day. And he then said to her, well, you would want time for crying because there's always people dying, you know, like life is tragic in a way. It's tragic, shot through with malevolence. It's nasty, it's unpleasant, and it's all conditioned by our attachment, you know, our strong clinging to the other person, as we know, which doesn't really exist. It's a story, it's a fantasy. These, I know, we can have intellectual understanding of these type Dhamma at this level, but it can be helpful. And when people are overwhelmed by their attachment, as many people are, especially when it comes to their relationships, they really find it very difficult when the other person decides whatever they decide, and they find it very difficult to come to terms with that. I think what Ajahn said earlier on today about being friendly and helpful, sometimes there's nothing much more we can do. The Buddha always just pointed to people, the Dhammas that are appearing, yes, we know that, but also he helped in being friendly and kind himself in different ways, trying to point out to people that that's the nature of things. We can't change that. When that fellow last week, Pat was, I think, talked about Kisa Gotami, he tried to remind Kisa Gotami that, you know, that there's always going to be death. There's always going to be separation, and death is a kind of separation. Separation is another kind of death. So it's not easy, you know. Dhamma is difficult and life is difficult. We can just try to be friendly where we can. There's not much more we can do sometimes. Even when people have lots of understanding, you know, there are people in the text, Visakha, as we know, she cried that Sumana, Anathapindika's daughter, she was Sakadagami, and she was really upset she couldn't get a partner. Also, you know, we're all got different accumulations and tendencies, and they don't serve us well at times, and that becomes very apparent under these kind of situations, you know, that can reveal to us. And I think there's an aspect too that our accumulations or our kilesas can be our teacher too. It's not an easy teacher, but Lopa can be a reminder that attachment is not helpful. It takes time, Nina, as you know. Look, it's difficult. And these discussions are always reminders of how difficult Dhamma is in many ways. It is very subtle. It's difficult to, difficult to appreciate at the level where we can begin to apply it. So there can be some detachment, but it takes time. We have to be patient, very patient. But I think what Ajahn was saying earlier on about just being kind and helpful where we can. Sometimes there's nothing much more than we can do than that.
What about no matter what happened, it's so good to understand the truth, rather than when the truth cannot be understood, if that happening does not happen at all.
Please repeat that, Ajahn.
See, what has happened, there should be the better thing to understand it, to get something good, rather than just be sorry for it.
That's true, Ajahn. I think that's very true, and that's absolutely true. I feel though, for many people, that's very difficult to grasp, difficult to really appreciate that even things when they go, when they disappear, that is the nature of things. It's not easy for people to appreciate Dhamma at that level. What you say is true, totally true, and very wise. But I don't think
the best thing is not trying to torture oneself. See, no one can torture you at all. It's your own
that's
thought
true.
about it. So
Yeah,
what is the best thing, no matter what happens, to understand the truth?
I think
So what's lost when that kind of happening is there? Nothing is lost, only burden. See, great burdens lost. No more to have such burden for that person.
I think that's true, Ajahn. And I like the way you use the word torture, because I think people torture themselves and they don't realize that they're torturing themselves because of their accumulated attachment is so strong. They haven't got the wisdom to appreciate that they are torturing themselves. And even when we have got some levels of understanding, I think we still torture ourselves. But it's a good reminder, Ajahn, and I appreciate it.
And may I ask, it can be just very funny question, whether if you lose your dear one, but you gain understanding, would you like to have that happen?
Of course, Ajahn. Of course. That is
someone say the dear one still be there, not change and not going away at all. Even there can be the understanding, but for her, what is more important, depending on different people. See, but think carefully. No one can do anything, no matter to lose someone dearly or not. It doesn't mean that it can bring understanding. That's why understand is not from any situation, but from considering the truth, no matter what is there, pleasant happening or unpleasant happening, by conditions, no different at all. No one can control.
No.
Yes, and Ajahn, this is also in the sutta. The greatest gain is understanding, and the greatest loss is the loss of understanding. That is a greater loss than losing your possessions or losing dear people.
That's why no matter losing or not losing at all, but the best thing is to understand the truth of what is there, that it cannot be permanent.
And everything else will be lost anyway. Every dear person, every dear possession, whatever one clings to in life will be lost anyway, sooner or later. each burden of clinging has to go sooner or later. And this circumstance is so common. Like amongst friends, we know it's so common, so ordinary. But I remember once when I was very young mentioning a similar situation to Ajahn, and she made the point, well, if the other person has behaved badly or done this or that, but one hasn't done anything so wrong, then nothing to have regret about, nothing to be blamed for at all. So one can sleep easily, peacefully, because one's just done one's best. So just do one's best. Develop kusala when one has an opportunity and have more understanding. So the one to be sorry for is the one that behaves badly or causes a lot of difficulty for others. Because the karma will bring its result for sure. We think we can somehow control whether there are pleasant situations occurring in life, but nothing can be controlled even for a moment. No one knows whether the feeling at the next moment will be pleasant or unpleasant, or what will be seen or heard, or whether there'll be pleasant bodily feeling or painful bodily feelings. Each reality is conditioned, and it has to be like that.
I'm very glad, because now there are many good points I can bring up to people who didn't hear much Dhamma and begin to be interested, because all these situations are so common. They happen all the time.
Yeah, certainly they do, Nina. And like I think of that sutta too, the Adita Parayaya sutta, where all is on fire. You know, the eye is on fire, the ears are on fire, they're burning. They're burning all the time. And we're not aware of this, how dangerous that fire is. The Buddha pointed out to the fire brothers, you know, they related to that world. It was a very appropriate sutta, obviously, for them. But we forget about that all the time because attachment feels so good, seemingly. But as Ajahn said, I like the use of the word torture. It's a torture. And it's not easy to appreciate this. It takes careful consideration and a lot of, you know, careful and respectful consideration. But it takes time, Nina. And, you know, I'm very sympathetic for your friend. And sometimes we want to help, but as Sarah was saying, look, it's very common, you know, people deciding whatever they decide, and we get upset about that. But, you know, there is, and you mentioned earlier on yourself, Nina, there are so many suttas that talk about this in different ways, that there are so many good reminders that attachment, how unfortunate and how dangerous it is.
And Sundara, you mentioned a case of the granddaughter from the sutta, and I would like to know which sutta it is.
Well, that is actually, it was when, I'm trying to remember, I'll think about it. I think it's somewhere where we sat, Visakha, she had many grandchildren. And I realized when I told the story, I got a little bit not quite correct, but she went to, I'll consider more, but because the Buddha has said to her, she was terribly upset about what had happened, and she had lost her grandchild. And the Buddha said to her, that's what it was. He said, if I could replace that granddaughter with as many people as there are in Sawati, would you like that? And she said, oh, yes, Lord, I would. And he said, but Visakha, how many people die in Sawadhi every day. And she said, oh, Lord, dozens, hundreds, possibly thousands, I'm not sure. He said, well, in that case, you would want time for crying. You would never have enough time for crying if hundreds of people were dying every day. And so when we are attached to anything, it's going to bring sorrow at some level. But I will, shouldn't be too difficult to find, but I'll dig it up somewhere and I'll pass that on to you. It's not actually in the sutta from here, it's somewhere in the commentaries, I believe. But I will see what I can find.
Yes, you can post it where
Yes.
to find. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
certainly.
It's helpful for many people who are interested in the Dhamma Sutta like that.
Well, even as that one we talked about, I think it was last week with, when Gisa Gautami, she had lost her children, her husband had been killed, her children had died. She was just totally distraught and terribly upset. And the Buddha reminded her that death happens, it can happen at any time. And she had to go from house to house to house to house, looking for, the sesame, the mustard seeds from a house that has not known death. And people were saying, no, my brother died, my father died, my daughter died, and on and on and on. And she went because the Buddha gave her an impossible task. He said to her, I want you to get some sesame seeds from a house that has not known death. We've all known death. So he helped her to realize, that perhaps quite gross level, but it was a condition for her later on when she became bhikkhuni, that, it's just a manifestation of impermanence at, a gross level, but that level of impermanence, as we know, is happening every moment. And it's so easy to forget that and think that we can control and, we know what's going to happen, but anything can happen at any time. And when it does, we can get horribly upset, and that's just the nature of things. But I'll do some more digging on that one of Visakha. And even like, I think of, it's difficult, like Ananda, he's a Sotapanna, when he realized the Buddha was dying, it was too much for him. It was too much for him. And the Buddha knew about this, and he said, haven't I told you, Ananda, haven't I told you that this is the nature of things? Everything that must be born must die. He was behind a tree crying when the Buddha was about to die himself. And he was probably very upset because he hadn't asked that question of the Buddha to stay on longer, but the Buddha knew he was weeping, weeping. But he reminded him that this is the nature of things. This is the nature of things. And it's not easy truth to grasp, especially at the particular moment when we have so much, attachment or love or whatever we like to call it for the other person. As we know, love is just another word for lobha. It's just exactly the same word, actually. And we forget that, that these feelings, these chittas are a condition for sorrow eventually. And if we don't slowly begin to understand them, there will be more sorrow and more sorrow from life to life to life to life. And so the cycle goes on. There are many examples, in the suttas of people finding it difficult to come to terms with the nature of life, and the Buddha reminding them in different ways that this is the nature of things and they can't be avoided. It's just the way things are.
And when she died, Visakha had 84,020 direct descendants. And I think it was in an Udana, that she had the great grief at the death of her granddaughter, and we read about these details.
Yes, and can I add something to sorrow about loss of dear people?
Sorry, Nina, I didn't get that. What did you say then?
Can Ajahn add something to sorrow about the loss of dear people?
You know, last week when there was the story about our friend's son who died, and the same stories were told, and her comment was that we think of different events and different stories, but actually in truth there's no son, no granddaughter. It's just the idea of mine and I'm and this child and this grandson, this son that belongs to me. Because
a friend who lost Tommy, you know.
Yes, but actually in truth it's just for this life, and because of the clinging to the idea of I, there's the clinging to the idea of my son Tommy that I've lost, or the idea of my granddaughter that I'm grieving about. But actually there's just moments of seeing and hearing and thinking about what's seen and heard, and clinging and thinking about the story of the dear one. But if there's no thinking about the dear one, about the son, the grandchildren, if there's the understanding of reality, then what is the grief for? What is the sorrow for?
That's good. That's the answer by way of Paramatadhammas. When someone has a case of a situation, clinging to the situation, and
even when we read the suttas and the stories about what happened to this person or that person, or in fact there are just different dhammas, so it's just conventional usage, but in truth no son in reality, no granddaughter, just different dhammas arising and falling away. So the only real medicine, the true medicine, will be the understanding of truth at this moment. It's the only way that there will ever be the overcoming of grief and sorrow and lamentation, but little by little, drip by drip. Meanwhile, because we're lost in the stories about people and dear ones and dear things, there'll be sorrow and grief again and again and again.
And usually there is still one when there is no understanding. But when there is the beginning of understanding the truth, one knows what is meant by dear one. So there can be understanding with metta, being friendly rather than just like love and cling so much as before, as to nothing, because what we take for dear one, right understanding begins to understand what is that one's own clinging to whatever is there. As we take, it can be a doll, a dog, or what we say, my husband or my wife, and so on. But actually, it's only that which appears. So when there is more understanding, the clinging as before can be changed to be compassion and more understanding with metta, instead of cling with attachment as before. But there can be moment of thinking about how close we are and how we have helped the other and so on. But that's in the past. But what about moment of understanding? It begins to understand the truth. So instead of having such a feeling like love, it can be metta and friendliness instead. And that must be much different between the two. One is akusala. It can bring much more sorrow and so on, not as before and so on, change. But when it is metta, it doesn't matter at all what would happen, and can be able to be friendly, helping as much as one can do, even no feeling as before. less and less until there can be more understanding and more metta. Better than just cling as before and be sorry about what happens. So right understanding can change from clinging too much into understanding and change it to be metta, understanding person. And one can see that it's quite more pleasant than such feeling before. Because when there is the feeling of love and clinging so much, one doesn't want the other to change and so on. But who can do anything, even that person himself? What about the accumulation? It's time to change and so on. So natural, and understand that this is only this life, not past life and not future life. What about next life? Just like this life, not as last life. Exactly the same. Different dear ones all the time. And attachment and clinging will condition the unpleasant feeling when one lost there's such and such dear one. But when there is understanding and metta, it doesn't hurt at all. Anytime, what would be? So one can see the difference between kusala and akusala. And right understanding does not condition any akusala when it understands more and more. And what one will do for the other change from the way it is into better way too, with metta. Helping with understanding and metta is different from helping with love or attachment. Without understanding, there cannot such moment of having metta and be understanding person. So now when it's panya and one is the understanding person, one knows why that person changed by conditions. And everything keeps on changing all the time by conditions. And I think that it's time now. Swadika.
Dika, thank you, Ajahn. Very helpful.
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ Thank you very much อาจารย์